Sometimes we don't know what we don't know, and all this is going to lead to a change of perception. Because ultimately, I am responsible for my thinking, and I am responsible for my perceptions. I'm responsible for the way I look at myself and the way I look at the world. No one is going to be able to change how I look at things. No one is going to be able to change my belief system. I have that responsibility. So how do I do that? I have to pay attention to what I think. And a lot of times we don't know what we don't know. So for example, if I get a flat tire on my way to work in the morning and it's raining, I have to now go out there and change my flat tire. Now that could make me very angry and frustrated, really start my day off badly. But I don't know what I don't know, because perhaps that flat tire protected me from a car accident that would have happened a mile up the road. That flat tire could have protected me from something devastating. But I don't know what I don't know. So I have two choices when it comes to my thinking. The first choice is getting angry and frustrated, and that really sets a negative energy and a negative momentum for the day, because I looked at that thing as a bad thing. I looked at that thing, the flat tire, as a negative thing. And then I sit with that. And how does that make me feel? However, if that flat tire protected me from something down the road that would have been devastating, that flat tire was what? A good thing. That flat tire was a protection for me. So I have a choice with how I respond and think about things. And I have a responsibility if I want to be happy, if I want to be content, if I want to be serene, if I want to be peaceful. I have a responsibility to change how I look at things. We have two parts of our brain. We have the conscious, which is where we think. And then we have the subconscious. The subconscious part of the brain is the brain that runs on habit. It controls our breathing. It controls our heart rate. It controls digestion after we eat. It also controls your habits. The subconscious mind is something we program by our thinking, and then that becomes a way of life. Over 80% of your life story comes from the subconscious mind. Over 80% of how you think, behaviors, your reactions to things come from the subconscious mind. So in essence, you have a lot of power in your thinking. Your thinking programs your subconscious mind. In your subconscious mind, you have a couple of things. One, you have a belief system. You have a way of believing things, the way you look at the world, the way you look at yourself, the way you look at God, the way you look at situations in your life. Two, you have perceptions. You have how you perceive things. Those perceptions sometimes are way off. So for example, if I tell myself long enough that I am no good, I'm not a good person, I will eventually program my subconscious to believe that. And what will happen is my subconscious now will develop habits of behavior to validate I'm not a good person. So if I tell myself I'm not good, I get into the subconscious mind that I'm not good. My subconscious mind then makes me act in ways, behave in ways that aren't good. And it validates that I'm not good. So it's about changing perceptions. And how do we change perceptions? By changing words. For example, I'm having a bad day. See, what the subconscious mind hears is, I'm bad. The subconscious mind hears that I'm bad. It's not a bad day. It's a difficult day. It's a challenging day. And we change the words a little bit, our subconscious mind begins to change, and then our perceptions begin to change. I'm having a bad day. The seed of that in the subconscious mind is that I'm bad. But if I'm having a difficult day, the inference is difficulties are what? Meant to overcome. I'm having a challenging day. Well, challenges are what? They're meant to overcome. But if I'm bad, and I believe I'm bad, there's nothing to overcome. I'm just bad. And I'm going to behave in ways to fulfill that. Another example. I'm 160 pounds, let's say, and I want to lose weight badly. I want to either gain muscle or lose weight. And I say to myself, I'm always 160 pounds. Always 160 pounds. I can never lose weight. What are you telling your subconscious mind? I'm always 160 pounds and I'll never lose weight. So let's say I lose 10 pounds. I'm now 150. Wow, I got to 150, but I'm always 160. What's going to happen is your subconscious mind is going to make you behave in ways to return to 160. Suddenly you put 10, 12 pounds back on. See, I'm always 160. So how we program by our thinking, we program the subconscious and then we fulfill that. And you can use that on any level. I'm a failure, I can never do things right, I'll never get that job, I'll never make friends, I'll never whatever. And you tell yourself enough of that, your subconscious mind will believe it. And then you'll start behaving in ways to fulfill that. So we have to change our perception of things. I'm not having a bad day, I'm having a difficult day. I'm not having a bad situation, I'm having a challenging situation. So I'm responsible by the way I talk with myself in my conscious mind to reprogram my subconscious mind so I start to behave differently. I have an obligation. If I want to be happy, and I want to be serene, and I want to be peaceful, I have an obligation to myself to change my thinking and changing my perception. Again, I'm going to reiterate, and I'll say this often today. Change the way I look at something, the something I'm looking at will change. So let's say your name is Mike. If I change, so Mike, this is what you would say to yourself. If I change the way I look at Mike, the Mike I'm looking at will change. Danielle. If I change the way I look at Danielle, the Danielle I'm looking at will change. If I change the way I look at my circumstance, the circumstance I'm looking at will change. See, I have a responsibility for that. Now, I have two choices here. If I choose, I can stay miserable, depressed, unhappy, insecure, feeling inferior. I can do that. I mean, if I want to, that's the power we all have. You have the power to be unhappy. You have the power to be miserable. But you also have the power to what? Be happy and content and find fulfillment. You have the power, and that power comes from your thoughts. Thoughts have power. You've heard that before, right? Thoughts have power. Nothing happens without thinking about it first. You have to think about something first. The Wright brothers in Dayton, Ohio, they had to think about flying before they were able to fly. And they had to think about it to create it. So today we can get on a plane and fly from Florida to California. See, but if they didn't think about it first, it never would have happened. Ford thought about cars, having cars to ride. And then we now have vehicles, right? To go from point A to point B. But Ford had to think about it first. Everything in your life story, the story of your life is created by the power of your thoughts. What are you thinking? See, sometimes we may get a thought that is hurtful, negative. See, I'm not responsible for the first thought. I'm not always responsible for the first thought because thoughts come. But what am I responsible for? I'm responsible for what I do with those thoughts. See, that's what I'm responsible for. Once I get the thought, now what am I going to do with it? What thoughts do I think about all day? You are what you think about all day. Now, I want you to understand something. The subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between right and wrong, good and bad. It doesn't have reason. It can only react by what you give it. Your subconscious mind can only respond by what you give it through your thoughts, thus your perceptions. You create the way your subconscious mind functions. You create your life story by the way your subconscious mind functions. We all have limitations, one limitation or another. We're all in a form of prison in one form or another. Some lives are more difficult, some lives are a little easier, but we're all in a prison of one form or another. We all have different circumstances and situations, but I'm responsible regardless of my circumstance and situation to change my life story. And my life story changes by how I think and recreate my subconscious mind, thus changing perceptions. So I'll share this with you. I am sober over 8 years. And when I first came to the point where alcohol was hurting my life, I didn't want to be an alcoholic. I thought it was a bad thing. I thought it was something terrible. That was my prison. That was the thing that kept me imprisoned in my life was the alcohol. And I looked at it as a bad thing. And if I'm an alcoholic, that's a bad thing. See, here I am over 8 years later, and my experience drinking was the greatest classroom of my life. It taught me so much about my life. It taught me a lot of what I never want to do again. It taught me so much about where I never want to be again. And because it was one of the greatest teachers of my life, I could take the lessons I learned from those hard times and benefit other people, teach other people, perhaps help others never to go where I went. See, that problem that I didn't want, that I hated about myself, became an asset. It became a good thing. It became something I can use to help other people. See, it became something to make me better. Can you imagine that? So if you look at your situation and your circumstance, and you all have many of them, and you all have different ones, but these can become the greatest assets of your life because you survived, you conquered, because you got courage. See, and you could take that and teach and help other people. It doesn't have to be a liability. It doesn't have to be a liability unless you want it to be. If you want to be successful and happy and peaceful, you take those things and you help other people. You take those things and you reach out and you help other people to become better because of your situation. See, it's a change of perception. Now, instead of that situation or that challenge or that difficulty you have to carry for your life, that becomes an asset now. It becomes a light. It becomes a light in your life because you can give it to other people to help them stay strong. We're all stuck with situations. Some situations we can't get away from. Some situations we have to live with. Some situations will never go away. But what's my perception of it? How am I looking at it? See, I'm stuck with certain things that I did in my life. There are consequences I'm stuck with the rest of my life. Now, I can look at those consequences and martyr and be sad and isolate and be lonely and be miserable. Let me tell you something. There is no one to blame for that. If I want to be that way and I choose to be that way, that's on me. But I want to be a happy person. I want to be a fulfilled person. I want to be a person that can help other people. I want to be happy. I want to look outside at the blue skies and just enjoy it. And I want to laugh and be peaceful. So I have an obligation to take whatever I have to carry over my shoulder. I have an obligation, if I want to be happy, to change how I look at that and use it to help other people. You know, there's a saying, you can't keep what you have unless you give it away. What does that even mean? Your positive outlook, your change of perception, your feeling good about life in spite of the difficulties and challenges we have to carry. If I can help other people, do you know what happens? I'm reminded of my own strengths and assets. If I'm giving it away, I'm reminding myself. Did you ever help somebody and it made you feel good? Were you ever there for somebody that needed you and it made you feel good? Were you ever struggling or in pain or going through some stuff in your life and somebody needed you and you put yourself aside and you helped them and then you just suddenly felt better? It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing because we all have the potential. We all have it in us to be amazing, fascinating people. We all have it in us, and despite our limitations and challenges, and we all have them on one level or another. So it's my obligation, It is my obligation, if I want to be happy, to change how I think. Look at things from a different point of view. Sometimes we get stuck in here and we don't really see the big picture. We need to take a different perspective. Sometimes we need someone to help us with this. Sometimes we need a friend or someone that we admire and respect to help us with a broader view of things. And sometimes we need that broader view to come home. And by home, I mean peaceful, serene, and safe. It comes down to perspective, comes down to perception, comes down to how you think, and sometimes we need some help and guidance along the way.